Welcome to today's session. So today we will be continuing the topic of professional ethics and we will be continuing schedule 2 part 1. So till last lecture we discussed in detail first schedule, all the parts of the first schedule. Now we will be continuing second schedule part 1 and its clauses. Okay. There is one update that I want to pass on to everyone is that for asking the doubts, you may either unmute yourself and ask the doubt, or you can use the BOS portal to post your doubts. The chat functionality on the Zoom has been is disabled. You will not be able to ask the doubts from there. So in order to ask the doubts, either use the BOS portal or unmute yourself. So both options are available. Okay. Okay, great. So let's start with the today's session. In last session, just a quick recap if I talk about what we discussed first schedule, all the clauses. Okay. Primarily, if I talk about part 1, then part 2, clause 1, which was applicable to member in service. Okay. Then we discussed part 3, which was applicable in general. Then we discussed part 4. Part 4 related to other misconduct, not the professional misconduct. Okay. We discussed the part 4 and the clauses of the part 4. Now, we will be discussing part 1 of second schedule. Okay. Again, very important part. So, like we did in the last session, what we did is we actually, prepared a chart, clause by clause summary. Same way we'll do this for part 1 of second schedule. Okay. And I will request everyone to prepare the chart or the summary with me so that a day before exam, you can just remember, okay, what was discussed, what is a summary of the part 1 of second schedule, and you will be able to, quickly recap that, okay, this was discussed. Okay. Let's see. So now, as we discussed at the start itself, that part 1 of the second schedule in total has 10 clauses. Okay, in total has 10 clauses, and these are, I'll just write one by one and I'll explain one by one in detail also. Second schedule, part 1. Starting with first clause, that is, if a member in practice or a CA in practice, basically, okay, if he discloses the information, okay, if he discloses the information acquired in the course of his professional engagement, acquired in the course of his professional engagement. Okay. Now that too without the permission of his client or without his consent. Very important part is without permission or consent of the client. Okay. Or otherwise by law. Or otherwise required by law. So where law says you need to disclose, you need to disclose. You don't require a permission or consent. But if law doesn't say anything with respect to the requirement of disclosure, and you still go ahead and disclose that information which you have acquired in the course of professional engagement without the permission and the consent of the client, kind of breach of confidentiality, in that case, clause 1 of part 1 of second schedule will get attractive. Okay. So you can understand it's nothing but the breach of confidentiality. Then I'm just writing down as of now summary. We will discuss one by one clause in detail. Don't worry on that. Clause 2. If a member in practice or a CA in practice, he certifies records in his name that were not prepared by him or by any specified person, in that case, he will be held guilty. Again, if he certifies certain records which were either not prepared by him or by some selected people, in that case, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay. Sorry. Certifies. Now, when I say certifies, it means he also submits in his name a report of examination of financial statement or a report or a certificate. Certifies in his name. Okay. Where those have not been made by him or specified person. In that case, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, who are these specified person that I'm talking about? As usual, when I say specified person, it comes like star mark. They are partner of the member in practice, employee of that member in practice, or any other CA in practice. Okay. In that case, it is fine. Otherwise, it is not fine. Okay. Then, clause 3. If a member in practice permits his name to be used, okay, in a way that it appears that he is actually somehow vouching the accuracy of forecast, means that you are saying that this forecast is 100% correct and it is going to be achieved. Okay. Or you are saying, you are, somehow presenting the report, or, you are somehow depicting that this particular forecast is 100% accurate, means there is not a single percent chance. Let's say, for example, someone has shown that, okay, sales will be X number in next year, or after 3 years, it will have a growth of this particular percentage. So every year it will grow by 12%, 20%, or 15%. Now, you prepare a report in such a way that it appears that you are saying that this 15% is 100% accurate. It will be there in future, may, whatever may happen, that this 15% will remain is going to remain there. In that case, you are vouching the accuracy of the forecast, which is actually not allowed. Okay. And if you do that, and if you allow someone, or if you yourself use your name or firm's name in connection with that, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay. So, if a member in practice permits his name to be used in a way that leads to believe, that is very important. It should appear that you are making someone believe that you are vouching the accuracy of forecast, that he is vouching the accuracy of forecast. Forecast, kind of a prediction or a number that I'm talking about. Okay. For that, if you are doing that, in that case, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt? So there is one SAE, okay, that we will see in another lecture, that is SAE 3400. Okay. Now that SAE talks about examination of prospective financial information, and we will again, at that particular point in time, we will again come back to this particular clause and see the difference. What SAE says and what is the clause 3 over here. But as of now, if you want to park it down, that there is SAE 3400, which will be discussed later on. Yes, Rakesh.
Good evening, sir. Sir, should I ask now or when you explain in detail, should I ask?
Perfectly fine. No. If you have something, you can ask now also, but if something will be there, I can take it later. So I'll let you know
Sure.
that,
Yeah.
we will be discussing later.
In respect of clause 1, disclosing the matter, confidential matter of client without their permission or without the permission of law. So nowadays, cases of digital arrest has been increasing, and where suppose some big chartered account firms, digitally arrested and asking the details of their client, confidential details as a ransom. Now, in that case, what should be the mode of action by, the partner?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. Can you just repeat once again?
Yes, sir. Sir, nowadays, digital arrest cases are increasing. That means, suppose I'm a businessman and by the hackers, I have been digitally arrested and asking for ransom. Generally, they ask for ransom, some money, crores of rupees or. Otherwise, you will be in a problem because they threaten you that we will release your so and so on the social media or that. So you have no other way but to give the money. Now that is a case of money, but suppose they are asking some chartered accountant partner, firm's partner, to disclose the matter of their client, big client, where the person who is arresting the partner is asking for the confidential detail. In that case, what should be the action? Because it is not coming, that is as good as blackmailing.
I'll tell you. Now, first of all, let's understand the topic you took is digital arrest. That is a scam. No one can arrest you digitally. That is not there.
Yes, I agree, sir.
So that is a scam. So you are not allowed to disclose any information, even if someone asks you to disclose that information digitally on digital arrest or something like that.
Okay.
You are not allowed. If you do that, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. That is for sure. So now blackmail or something, that is a different story. You may seek your legal consult or something like that. But as far as disclosing the information without the consent is there, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct.
In case of clause 2, sir. Long back, I have seen the cases that many clients, without the knowledge of chartered accountant, they are, fraudulently signed the reports and submitted to the government department, like sales tax or income tax department. In that, when he has no knowledge of that his name is being used or is being signed.
I'll tell you, that has been stopped and that cannot be done right now because of the UDIN. So UDIN there is in picture.
Yeah, I agree.
Until UDIN is not there, the report is not valid.
Yes. That's true. Yes. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move to the clause 4 then. Okay, now clause 4 that we were talking is if a member in practice expresses opinion on an entity where he has a substantial interest or where he is substantially interested, in that case, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Means if I issue an opinion on the financial statement of any business or enterprise where I am, my partner, my firm has a substantial interest. Let's say, for example, if I talk about substantial interest, It is the same that is, there that we have discussed earlier, 20% or more. But let's say, for example, hypothetical example, I hold some shares of a company. I'm 15%, 50% holder. Okay, I'm an equal shareholder of a company, and I am a chartered accountant in practice, and I do audit of that particular entity itself, where I am the shareholder holding more than 50% or more. Okay, in that case, this clause will get attractive. That is, I'm expressing an opinion on the financial statement of any business or enterprise where my firm or I am substantially interested. Okay. So I cannot do that because independence is not there. I am not independent at that particular place. I cannot issue an opinion. So express opinion on financial statement of any business where he, his firm, or his partner are substantially interested or has a substantial interest. So don't worry, I will again touch upon the definition of substantial interest when I will discuss clause 4 in detail. Okay. Now, clause 5 to 9. 5 to 9, I take it together because they are kind of, you can say, linked, or they are related to one single topic. So, clause 5 just give me a minute. There is some system issue. Clause 5, clause 6, 7, 8, and 9. All together, I will be taking clause 6, clause 7, clause 8, and clause 9. Okay. All these 5 clauses I will be taking together. Now, clause 5 says that if a CA in practice or a member in practice fails to disclose, is not exercised, or is grossly negligent, fails to obtain, or fails to invite attention. So all these things are kind of, you can say linked, and they are kind of, where the member or CA in practice, okay, has not or is not able to fulfill or is not able to perform the duties appropriate. So that's why I usually club 5 to 9 together when I'm discussing. Okay. This is clause 5 to 9 that I was talking about out of the that we discussed right now. And the last clause for part 1 comes as fails to keep the money of the client other than the fees or remuneration in a separate bank account. Okay. When he fails to keep a money in separate bank account, at that point in time, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So this is kind of a summary for all the clauses of part 1, 1 to 10. Okay. Now let's do a deep dive clause by clause to understand, each clause in detail. What are the things there and how to, understand more detail, more information about that. Okay. Let's talk about clause 1. Discloses information acquired in the course of his professional engagement to any person other than his client, okay, without his consent or otherwise then required by law. Now, I'll tell you one example. I'll discuss one example. Okay. And you tell me whether that information was supposed to be disclosed or not supposed to be disclosed. Let's say I'm there on a seminar. Okay. I am presenting a seminar. It's a professional seminar where I'm talking about GST. Now, there is a topic which is there about, recent issues in the GST or some related to that. And to make them understand the topic, I show my clients data that this is how I done. You should also do, and this is how you should do the calculations in case of that particular area or issue or whatever it is, the topic. Okay. Now, in seminar, all the people who are there are CN practice. Okay. And to make them understand and to pass the knowledge, I disclose that information which is related to my client, but to provide them the knowledge. Now tell me whether clause 1 will get attracted or not.
Attracted.
Anyone else? Okay, Ginny. Yes, very good. You guys can use the BOS portal to answer your questions. Perfectly fine. Anyone? Anyone else? Whether clause 1 will get attracted or not?
Attracted, sir.
Yep. But I am disclosing the information to CN practice in general just to, pass the information and, provide them the necessary details. Would you still say that it will get attracted?
If you have not taken the permission of your client that you are going to disclose present this to the professional colleagues, chartered accountants, then yes, still it is.
Absolutely correct. So when I talk about clause 1, okay, over there, the key and important point is whether I was required to disclose, number 1, by law. If yes, then I have disclosed it, perfectly fine. But if I was not required to disclose by law, and if I have not obtained the consent or the permission of my client, in that case, I will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay. Now let's understand. I was having annual report with me of a listed company. Okay. Now that listed company is being audited by me. Okay. Let's understand. I hold annual report of a listed company, and that listed company is being audited by me. I disclose some information from that annual report which is related to my audit client, okay, to the public when I was delivering the seminar. To the public when I was delivering that seminar, and I am disclosing that information which is there in the annual report, and that is my client. Would you still say that clause 1 will get attracted?
No, sir. It is already available in public domain.
Anyone else?
Same, sir.
Yes. So you need to understand whether that information that you have obtained, okay, that information is there in the public domain, or that information is a confidential information which is not there in the public domain. Okay. So accordingly, you need to understand whether that information, okay, was acquired in your profession, in the course of your professional engagement, is there or not in public domain or not. Okay. So just a minute. Just give me a minute. I think there is some again technical issue. So Let's write in detail then. Few more things with respect to the clause 1. It's not only about disclosing the information, we also need to understand when it is required to be disclosed by law, and when I talk about permission, let's say I have a client's permission, but whether that's a valid permission or not, that also we need to understand. Okay, so that is discloses the information acquired in course of professional engagement, and that too without consent or permission of client or otherwise by law, required by law. Okay. Now, I'll give in one example, another example. Let's say Mr. X, who is the independent director, of ABC Limited, which is the audit client for you. Mr. X, independent director of ABC Limited, which is the audit client for you, has asked some information which you acquired during professional engagement. Can you disclose that information to Mr. X? He is the independent director, not the full-time or managing director.
No.
Anyone? Anyone else? If I disclose information to Mr. X, whether clause 1 will get attracted or whether I will be held guilty of professional misconduct?
Yes.
So you're saying professional misconduct. Anyone else? Mansha, Jenny? Anyone?
Independent director, I think so Mr. X has a right to ask for such information.
So a lot of times, independent directors ask the auditor with respect to some information. It happens. It's a general, general thing.
Then it would be allowed if it
See,
is asked
yeah.
generally.
So the thing is, if I disclose to anyone other than the client, okay. Now that part is that I'm disclosing to anyone other than the client, then only I will be held guilty. That is disclosing, I'll star mark, and this is disclosing anyone other than the client. Now let's say in this case, Mr. X, he could be part of your audit committee also, independent director. Okay, in that case, there are particularly a particular requirement under SA 260 plus 265 where I need to provide information to Mr. X or audit committee or those charged with governance. Okay. So in that case, I have to disclose, and that is required by law. Remember, we discussed that if it is other than by required by law, then I will be held guilty. But this is required by law because SA 260 says and SA 265 says I am required to provide information to those charged with governance. I am required to communicate with them. In that case, I will not be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay, now let's change a bit. Mr. Y is the finance manager. Authorizes you to disclose the GST calculation of the company in a seminar. So let's say, for example, you went to the company and asked like, okay, I want to disclose some information with respect to the GST calculations so that, I can explain to my audience that how I did the GST calculation. Mr. Y, he is the finance manager. He provided you okay, I authorize you, please go and disclose. Now, what do you say? Are you still guilty of professional misconduct or not?
Yes, because finance manager is not TCWG. Those charged with governance or top management, board of directors.
Exactly
Okay.
same.
Okay, very good. Absolutely correct. So I need to understand from where I have obtained that consent. Who has authorized me? Okay, let's say for example, in case of proprietorship, okay, the sole proprietor can authorize me. That is perfectly fine. In case of partnership, partners can authorize me. In case of a company, who can authorize me? In case of a company, either board of directors are authorized, okay, to allow me to disclose any information because they are part of the management, or anyone else authorized by board of directors or general body meeting by shareholders in general body or by MOA or AOA, articles of association. If MOA or AOA of the company authorize someone, shareholders in general body meeting has authorized someone, or board of directors has authorized someone, in that case, that person or board of directors can provide the consent. Any doubts till now?
Not to me.
Okay. Another part. Another very good question that we need to discuss over here is that, let's say you are the auditor of ABC Private Limited, which is the subsidiary of XYZ Limited. Okay. Auditor of XYZ Limited has asked certain work papers for verification. You share those work paper to them. Okay. Now tell me whether you will be held guilty of professional misconduct or not.
No, if through proper channel and through proper procedures.
Anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay.
Good evening, sir.
So you are the auditor of ABC Private Limited, which is a subsidiary of XYZ Limited. Now, auditor of XYZ Limited has asked you to share certain work papers for verification or for some additional detail, and you shared those work papers.
Sir,
So after obtaining the client consent, we can share the working papers.
Anyone else?
sir, as per SA 230, the work papers are the personal property of the auditor. That's why if auditor's discretion, the auditor can share the work paper with the another auditor. So he will not be attract the clause, professional misconduct.
Okay. So there are two things that we need to understand. Okay. One is an auditor is not required to provide the client or other auditors of the same enterprise or its related enterprise, let's say parent or subsidiary, access to his audit work papers. Now, sharing of information as required by SA 600 or as required for the branch auditors is different than sharing of work papers. Understand? So when sharing of information is required, you need to provide that information in a particular format where the auditor will ask you, okay, give me that information in this particular abstract format. Okay. There's a difference between sharing of work papers and sharing of information. So sharing of work papers is generally, considered that is not required generally, because work papers may contain more details, additional details, which might not be required by the or asked by the auditor. And in that case, if something confidential is being disclosed, again, clause 1 may get attracted. So you have to be very careful when you are sharing the work paper versus sharing the information. So information, when I talk about, it's something, let's say, okay, what was the sales number? What is the breakup of sales? Instead, if I share my work paper of, testing about the sales, whatever I have done, data analytics and everything, that is a problem. So you need to understand that whether I'm required to share information or work paper. So usually it is sharing of information that is required. Okay, not the work paper.
Sir, but what about SA 600?
So SA 600, if you see SA 600, it says that you need to share information, not the work paper.
Okay, sir.
You need to obtain information, and that everywhere the term that is used in information, not the work papers.
Okay, sir.
Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Okay. If no further doubts, that this is about the clause 1 that we discussed, that sharing of information, disclosing the information acquired in the course of professional engagement without the permission of a client or otherwise by law. Now let's go for the clause 2. Now clause 2 talks about certifies or submits in his name or in the name of his firm a report on the examination of financial statement unless and until that examination is done by him or is by his partner or is by employee. So remember, I talk about the specified person. So if he certifies or submits the report in his name or his firm's name, unless the examination is done by him or specified person. Now that is specified person means that either by a partner or by employee, or you can say by another CA in practice. In that case, it is fine. Otherwise, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, I will just give an example and we'll discuss further on this one. Let's say Mr. A and Mr. B are CA in practice. They both are appointed auditors of XYZ Limited. After the audit, Mr. A and Mr. B issue joint audit report but they have only checked their respective area. So let's say, for example, Mr. A was looking about the asset, Mr. B was looking about the liability. So they checked their respective area and they issued a joint audit report. Will you call this particular scenario falling under clause 2?
No, because both are practicing chartered accountant and employee of the firm.
Anyone else?
Each joint auditor is responsible for only the work done allocated to him.
Okay. Absolutely correct. Yes, joint auditors are responsible for the areas mutually divided among themselves of the audit work. And that is also same mentioned in your audit report. Okay. Even SA 299 specifies in the same way. So it specifies the liability with respect to the work performed by a particular auditor in case of a joint audit. Now, here in the current scenario, if I talk about, he is not certifying anything which is not examined by him. He is only certifying in a joint audit for the areas which is performed by him. So Mr. A or Mr. B will not be, liable or will not be liable for professional misconduct under clause 2. So they are not liable here. Not guilty of professional misconduct. And because of that is my SA 299. They are not certifying beyond their work, and their work is mutually discussed and divided as per SA 290. Okay. Pretty straightforward, nothing complex over here. Okay. If no doubts, let's proceed to the clause 3. Now, clause 3 basically talks about that if a member in practice permits his name, okay, or the firm's name to be used with, if a member in practice permits his name or firm's name to be used with an estimate of earnings that they are contingent upon future finding. Now, this particular name that I'm talking about is used in such a way, that it appears or leads to believe that he or his firm are very important, vouching for the accuracy of forecast. First of all, he permits his name to be used in connection with an estimate of earnings. So let's say, for example, someone has prepared, provisional P&L or balance sheet or prospective financial statement for the next 5 years. Okay, that how much amount is going to be earned, just an estimate numbers. Okay, to show that, okay, the firm's growth or something like that. So based on the estimates, they have prepared next 5 years financial statement. Now, if a member in practice or a CA in practice permits his name, okay, to be used with that particular report or prospective P&L or balance sheet in such a way that it appears that he is vouching the accuracy of the forecast, means he is certifying that this forecast is correct. He is certifying that this forecast is accurate, that the company is going to earn this much profit in future years. In that case, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. For example, having a particular, paragraph in a report that is, to the best of my information and explanation received, the 5 years forecast are prepared in the manner specified in whatever and provide true and correct picture, true and fair picture. No, I am not required to present true and correct, accurate and correct for the forecast. If I write in my opinion anywhere that this forecast are prepared in the manner that they depict or that they provide accurate and correct information, I will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So the term here or the important point here is that I am not supposed to provide assurance over the forecast. Assurance kind of vouching the accuracy of the forecast. I should not be providing that assurance. The reason, because those are forecasts. No one can predict a forecast with an accuracy. Always there will be some probability that it might not be accurate. If that is the scenario, then how can I say that these forecasts are accurate in my report? Yes, Jenny?
सर मेरा ये क्वेश्चन था कि जैसे कि हम इनकम टैक्स के अंदर सर्टिफिकेट अंडर सेक्शन 197 के लिए अप्लाई करते हैं, तो वो यानी हमसे एस्टिमेटेड यानी प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस बैलेंस शीट की डिमांड करते हैं, यानी टैक्स एग्जेम्पशन की डिमांड करते हैं। तो उस समय पे हम जो सीए है अपना यानी एक एस्टिमेट प्रिपेयर करता है ना, तो उसके अंदर अगर हम ऐसा लिखते हैं कि सब्जेक्ट टू चेंज, तो भी ये यानी इस तरीके से अट्रैक्ट करेगा सॉरी
नहीं, in that case we never certify that these are the accurate numbers. See, 197 is something with respect to the lower deduction certificate.
yes sir.
Now over there we never specify that these are the true and accurate forecasts that we have prepared, that they are going to be achieved in future. It is not like that.
Okay sir.
So in 197 we just provide an estimate.
Yes sir. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Anyone?
हेलो.
Yes.
यस सर. हम प्रोजेक्ट रिपोर्ट भी बनाते हैं तो उसमें भी ये अट्रैक्ट कर सकते हैं ऐसा कुछ तो.
See, you do not provide any assurance over the project report. I do not provide any assurance. The moment you provide an assurance on a project report, that will attract. This will get attracted.
ओके सर.
Okay. Any doubt till now?
Not to me,
See,
sir.
in the coming lectures also, we will also discuss about one more topic, how to prepare reports, okay, on examination of a prospective financial information that will be covered by SAE 3400. It is not like that we do not take any assignment on examination of prospective financial information. There we will be discussing about forecast, hypothetical assumptions, projections, all those things will be discussed, okay, but we cannot provide an assurance in when it comes to the vouching the accuracy of the forecast. We will see in much more detail when we will discuss about SAE 3400 that how to draft a report, what are the things that we are required to mention in the report when we issue a report for examination of a prospective financial information. Examination of prospective financial information. Okay, so that we will discuss in the coming lectures. That is there. And again, at that particular point in time, we will come back here. We'll see what was the clause 3 and how both are different. Okay. If no doubt, let me proceed to the clause 4. So clause 4 says that if a member in practice expresses his opinion on a financial statement or business enterprise in which he, his firm, or his partner has a substantial interest, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, here we need to understand some important terms. So, first is expresses his opinion on financial statement of any business or enterprise where he, his firm, or a partner, or his partner basically, has a substantial interest. Okay. Now, the important point here to understand first is what is substantial interest. When I will be saying here it is a substantial interest or it is not a substantial interest. Okay, where it is defined the substantial interest. So for that, we need to understand the term substantial interest in detail. Even the term substantial interest is used in Appendix 9 of the CA regulations, okay, or you can say Appendix H of the CA regulations, which talks about, okay, what is substantial interest. Now, the term substantial interest means that in case of a company, so I have to divide or I need to divide the substantial interest based on the type of the concern. Okay, and in these type of concerns, let's say for example, let's say it's a company first. So in case of a company, I will call a member having substantial interest when he is carrying more than 20% of voting power. Carrying more than 20% of voting power at any time. At any time during the relevant years. Okay. So in that case, he will be called having substantial interest. Now the question is he only required to hold that particular 20%? Answer is no. That 20% over here can be held by him with relatives, with other concerns, where he is having substantial interest. Means it is not necessary that he should be holding directly that 20%. Okay. He can hold that 20% indirectly with his relatives or through a company or a concern in which he is having substantial interest. Okay. So if he is having more than 20% of voting power at any point in time, it is said that he is having substantial interest in that particular concern. Any doubt with respect to this one? With the definition of substantial interest?
Sir, Prakash.
Yes.
This 20% is what you have written. What about the co-part? Suppose he is holding 20% voting powers with together with his co-partners. Should it be considered as a substantial interest or not?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again? Like 20%?
20% for substantial interest to be considered. 20% of voting power at any time. And then you've given the list, himself with relatives or with other concerns where he is having a substantial interest. Now, what I am asking is, suppose he is holding 20% together with his other partners, I mean, of the firm. In that case, should it be considered as substantial interest?
With other partners?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So I say in that case, he will be having through his through other concerns. In that case, yes, he will be having substantial interest.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Got it.
And other than company, let's say for example, this was company where I had 20% of voting power. What about other concerns where there is, no voting power? For other concerns, when I talk about substantial interest, it is 20% of the profit share. If I hold more than 20% of profit share, it is mean to have that I have a substantial interest in that particular other concern.
Okay, got it.
Any doubt? Any doubt till now? So if I provide an opinion on the financial statement of a business or enterprise where his partner or his firm has a substantial interest, in that case, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay, if no doubt, let me ask you a question. Mr. X issued opinion on the financial statement of ABC Private Limited, which was a or you can say which was held by Mr. Z and Mr. Y. Mr. Z and Mr. Y were brothers of Mr. X. However, Mr. X never had any investment in ABC Private Limited, nor he was engaged in any business with his brothers. Okay. Now tell me whether this particular clause will get attracted or not. So Mr. X issued opinion on ABC Private Limited. ABC Private Limited was held by Mr. Z and Y. Z and Y are the brothers of Mr. X. However, Mr. X never had any investment in ABC Private Limited, nor he was engaged in any business with his brothers.
Attracted, even though he's not, had any investment, but since his brothers, Mr. Y and Z, are, shareholders of the ABC Private Limited, so it's indirectly holding the power. So he cannot issue opinion.
Anyone else?
Sir, the clause will not attract as in the clause it is written that he, his firm and his partner. When Mr. X, अगर मिस्टर एक्स ने अक्वायर किया होता तभी वो गिल्टी होता, लेकिन यहाँ पे मिस्टर एक्स ने नहीं किया. अगर मिस्टर एक्स करता, अक्वायर करता कोई भी शेयर या शेयर कंपनी के अंदर, तो वो अपने तब वो रिलेटिव के साथ अगर करता तब वो अट्रैक्ट होता. लेकिन यहाँ पे उनके रिलेटिव्स के पास शेयर है, लेकिन मिस्टर एक्स उसमें इन्वॉल्व ही नहीं है, तो वो ये अट्रैक्ट नहीं होगा.
Indirect holding. This is a case of indirect holding, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone?
Sir, I am a bit confused about whether whether relatives are getting covered under the clause. But if
relatives there with if he is holding with relatives, then yes, he's holding substantial interest.
so this case is like his relatives are holding, so he is indirectly holding the interest. So clause will be attracted.
Okay. 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 Now, see, one more thing that I want to discuss over here. Before I specifically mentioned a few things in this particular question. Okay. So I specified this particular form of company. In company, it's not only about the clause that we need to see, it's also about the Companies Act that we need to look into. Okay. There is section 141 of the Companies Act, which talks about eligibility, qualifications, disqualifications of auditor. And over there is one particular point. There is one particular point of section 141. Okay. That is section 141(3), which talks about that if a person who is a relative of a director, okay, in that case, that particular auditor will not be eligible for appointment in the company. So if a person who is, a relative of a director, he shall not be appointed as an auditor. Now here, when I talk about the term definition relative under Companies Act, brothers are covered. So there is a definition given, brothers are also part of that. So as per 141, by default, he will not be allowed to be appointed as an auditor. And if he issues an opinion that he's not, complying with the 139 and 140 of the Companies Act. Remember, we discussed about when he's getting appointed, he's not, if he doesn't check with the 139 and 140 of the Companies Act, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So first attraction of professional misconduct will be there based on that he is not complying with the Companies Act 139, 140. Second part here, when I do a plain reading of a particular provision of this substantial interest, it says that that in case of a company, okay, if the person or if the auditor, okay, is carrying more than 20% of the voting power, of the voting power, okay, during the relevant years or during the particular years. Now that is through or by one or more of the following persons, like one or more of the relative members, okay, or any concerns, okay. In that case, he will be held that he is holding substantial interest. Again, here his Mr. X, Mr. Z, and Mr. Y are the members and the holding or owners of the ABC Private Limited. In that case, it can be said that he is holding substantial interest because the brothers or relatives of the member are there who are holding a portion of the company which is substantial, which is more than 20%. So again, this clause will get attracted.
Understood, sir.
So not only this particular clause is there for the professional misconduct, but section 141 is also there that you need to look into.
Sir, if not asked in the exam, then should we mention the reference of section 141? If it is only for clause 5, suppose, whether they are, professional misconduct under clause 5, then should we mention this section?
See, this is, I would say, what I have seen is, it will be not like that. It will be very rare that, it may ask that only answer from one clause point of view. No. Usually the question comes with, okay, answer the question from the point of view of code of ethics or the discuss the liability of the auditor or like that way. So in that scenario, you have to explain about all the provisions which are getting attracted, not only one particular provision.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
So I purposefully took this particular question so that I can discuss section 141. I can discuss the relevant clause that we discussed earlier, where the member is required to comply with section 139 and 140 of the Companies Act before getting appointed. Can anyone tell me the clause number of that particular, clause number of that particular clause where we talked about, okay, if he will not comply with 139 and 140, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct? Anyone?
Clause 10, sir.
Anyone, which clause it was there? Come on, in exam, you have to write all these things. Like you have to mention the clause number in, like it will not be a scenario where only there will be one particular clause.
Clause 9 of first schedule part 1.
Absolutely correct. Yes. So clause 9, part 1, first schedule, where if a member in practice does not comply or does not seek check whether 139 and 140 are complied with, before getting appointed. In that case, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clear?
Yes.
And 139, there is one requirement in section 139 that auditor has to certify or auditor has to provide whether he is satisfying the criteria mentioned in 141 or not. Section 141. So 139 says that, okay, check whether 141 is getting complied or not. So you need to check 139, 140 and 141, all these three sections. Clear? So this is particular clause 4 expresses his opinion on financial statement of any business or enterprise where he, his firm or his partners has a substantial interest. Any doubt? Okay, if no doubts, I have another question here. Mr. A, member in practice, also employed by ABC Private Limited, issues opinion on financial statement of ABC Private Limited. Mr. A does not hold any interest in ABC Private Limited. Also, he has obtained specific approval of counsel for employment with ABC Private Limited. Now, here there is a member in practice who has obtained specific approval from the council to get in employment with a company. Now he is into an employment with a company where he has issued opinion on the financial statement of that company. Will he be held guilty of professional misconduct?
Yes, because he's the employee of the ABC Private Limited and not the partner or employee of any firm of the auditors of the ABC Private Limited. It is immaterial whether he has taken approval of counsel for employment. That is a different issue altogether. So he is covered under misconduct under this clause.
Okay. Anyone else?
Sir, again, he is not eligible to be appointed to express opinion on financial statements where he is employed. So clause is attracted.
Okay. Again, like your answer is perfectly correct, but again we are missing one important thing. Whenever I bring a company in a picture, also think from the point of view of company side. Is the officer or an employee of the company eligible to be appointed as an auditor of a company? Answer is no. 141 doesn't allow that. Clause 4 also is there, but you also need to think from the company side point of view, and again clause 9. So it's not like that only one clause will get attracted. You have to think, on all the aspects which are there. So straightforward, which is not allowed under section 141 of the Companies Act. If he's getting appointed, if he's accepting the appointment, again clause 9 will get attractive. And clause 1 also, clause 4 also. Because in clause 4 specifically, like there is a council guidelines also, and there was a circular also issued where it was said that, member who is member in practice and also in employment cannot do audit of the company, and if he is not allowed over and above, whether over and above there is a disallowment or there is a disability in section 141. So council also does not permit, section 141 also does not permit. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So we need to think it from multiple angles, not only one particular side. Again, section 141 will be there. Clause 9 will be there. And clause 4 will be there. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Any doubt? No. If no further doubt, what I propose is let's take a quick 10-minute break. Try to grasp whatever we discussed till now. Okay. And after the break, after 10 minutes, we'll continue the session and we'll discuss rest of the clauses. Because rest of the clauses 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, as I said, they are connected to one another in some in a particular way. So it will be very helpful if we discuss all those clauses in detail in one go. Okay. Let's take a quick 10-minute break. Ashok ji. Thank you. Now we will shift to clause 5. Okay. Clause 5 and till clause 9, they are somewhat related. So let's discuss these clauses in detail. Clause 5 talks about where a chartered accountant in practice fails to disclose. Okay. If he fails to disclose a material fact known to him. Material fact known to him is necessary. Okay. And the disclosure of which is necessary when it is related to the financial statement, or where he is concerned with the financial statement in professional capacity. So if he is associated with that financial statement in a professional capacity and where the disclosure is necessary, if he fails to disclose a material fact known to him, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay. Now the question comes over here is, what is a material fact? What is a material fact? Now, to understand the material fact, we need to apply the concept of materiality. Material fact will be understood as per SA 320. The concept of materiality will be applied. Okay. So, the concept of material, based on the concept of the materiality, I will decide whether that was a material fact or not. Okay. Now, I have a question over here, and let's take up this question and discuss. Mr. A. Okay. Mr. A was appointed stat auditor of ABC Private Limited. During the year, ABC Private Limited received a notice of demand from tax authorities and the amount of penalty was material. While preparing the financial statement, ABC Private Limited did not disclose the notice. Okay. Mr. A also did not report the fact as the matter was still under dispute. Okay. You tell me whether clause 5 will get attracted or not. It is not related to financial statement. There is no liability on financial statement. There is no, amount impact on the financial statement. So I'll just specify here, there is no impact of this on profit or balance sheet of entity. Pure disclosure part, pure disclosure. No impact on profit, no impact of balance sheet, only impact of disclosure, okay, which was not disclosed.
I think so it's required as part of the CARO report. immaterial tax demands from taxation authorities. It's a mandatory disclosure that the auditor has to present. And if that disclosure is not present, then obviously it is default from the auditor side, sir.
Let's say Caro is not applicable. As of now, I have given private limited company. So let's say Caro is not applicable. Then
even in that case, because it is required, when you're talking about material information, the users of these information decide on based on the facts given in these information. So non-disclosure is also considered as a deviation from what is required, and hence he will be liable for default.
okay, good. Anyone else? Any other answer?
He don't know na at the time because hello.
Yes, yes.
He don't know na. Mr. A didn't know it. So if he don't know the material misstatement, so how would he report? So I think 5 will not because he don't know that.
No, here I have said like Mr. A also did not report the fact. He was aware. Let's assume he was aware. For time being, let's assume Mr. A was aware about this notice.
Then was he concerned? He was Mr. A, stat auditor. Yeah, he's concerned with it.
Yeah.
Yes, it is covered. I mean, the clause will be attractive because, I mean, irrespective whether it has a effect on profit or balance sheet, if not in this year, next year is bound to be there or next to next year. So he has to bring this notice or at least expect the management to mention these facts in their report.
Okay, great. Good. Anyone else? Any other answer?
Matter might be still in dispute, so it is material or not. After conclusion, it might be decided.
So I have given like it was the penalty was material.
No, but it's still in dispute, so we can say that it's not till concluded. That's material.
Okay. See, now if I have to provide the answer, the clause.
सर
Yes.
हाँ हमें ये भी देखना पड़ेगा ये नेसेसरी है कि नहीं इसमें कंडीशन दोनों है क्लोज 5 में मटेरियल प्लस नेसेसरी तो नेसेसरी होगा तो ये अट्रैक्ट होगा क्लोज 5 बाकी नहीं होगा
Okay. Yeah. Correct. So what we need to look over here is that is it a material fact first of all? Yes, it is a material fact. Is it disclosed in the financial statement? No, it is not disclosed in the financial statement. Whether the disclosure is necessary or not, that will decide, as you correctly said, whether the disclosure is necessary, that will decide whether, this clause will get attracted or not. And what I understand, the disclosure of these cases is necessary, at least in your contingent liability. If you do not book any of the provision, perfectly fine. You need to still disclose in your contingent liability. Okay. Or there are other areas where you need to disclose these particular details. So disclosure is necessary, I would say. And hence, disclosure is necessary, although it is not having any impact on the P&L. It is not having any impact on the balance sheet. It is a contingent liability item which was not disclosed and the disclosure was necessary. As a result, yes, clause 5 will get attracted. Clear? Any doubt?
So there is one more condition attached to it. Na? He should be concerned with that as an professional capacity.
He's a stat auditor. Yeah, he's a stat auditor.
But if he was not a stat auditor, other than that, like he was just a tax advisor of that would it attract?
No. So see, in that case, if he's not associated in a professional capacity, but like let's say in that case, if he knows a material fact of a financial statement and he does not disclose it, then it's not a matter because he was never associated in a professional capacity. It is no requirement upon him to disclose the fact. Are you getting my point? So if he's not there in a professional capacity, then there is no requirement of a disclosure. Like as a chartered accountant, I am not associated with ABC Private Limited in any way. He's not my that company is not my client. That company, I never know about that company, and somehow, let's say for example, somehow by mistake, by some accident, I come to know about a particular thing which is not disclosed in their financial statement. In that case, yes, I'm not associated with in a professional capacity with that company. There is no requirement upon me to disclose that material fact. In that case, this clause will not get attracted.
So what about as a whistleblower? As per Schedule 1, where the member, I mean, when clauses are applicable both to practicing chartered accountant and members of institute.
First schedule part 3, you are talking about first schedule part 3?
Yes, sir.
Like there is no clause in that first schedule part 3. So there are the clauses in the first schedule part 3, the 3 clauses. One is if I act as a FCA, but I'm not a FCA. If I do not supply information to the institute, if I give false information under clause 6 and 7, in that case, part 3 will get attracted. It is nothing related with this particular part. That okay, if I have information about the company and I am not related in any professional capacity with the company and I do not disclose.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay. So when I say fails to disclose, he will be only, failing to disclose when he is there in a professional capacity. Otherwise, there will be no onus on me to disclose that particular detail if I'm not associated in a professional capacity, and I will, there will be no failure on my part. So fails to disclose will only get attractive when he's there in a professional capacity. So I'll just write it over here also for clarification. Professional capacity. Then only, I could say that, okay, he failed to disclose.
As a tax advisor, he also will be in a professional capacity or not?
Now, in that case, see, when I talk about tax advisor, okay, is he required to disclose that material fact?
He's not in position to do that in his audit report balance sheet. That's why he is not in a professional capacity in that respect.
No, see, let's say, for example, I'm giving a certification. In certification, not audit, I'm doing certification. If I'm doing a certification also, there is a liability on me to disclose. But let's say, for example, I'm doing a tax advisory services where there is no liability to disclose on my part. Okay. In that case, am I liable to disclose that material fact? That is the first question I need to ask. If it is a report, audit report, if it is a certification, yes, I'm liable. Apart from that, case to case basis, I need to evaluate whether I was liable to disclose or not.
Okay, so basically the auditor needs to check the financial statement. So we are not there to check the financial statement. So we are not liable about the disclosure. If we are only advising.
Yes, if you are advisory, if you are not issuing any assurance, if you are not issuing any report, it's an advisory part. Over there, you are not required to disclose. You don't have a requirement to disclose. So that depends upon the advisory to advisory assignment. can be, a lot of different advisory assignment. But in that case, again, that depends upon the assignment basis. Let's say, for example, there is an only assignment to check the accuracy, arithmetical accuracy of the financial statement. It's not in my purview to disclose the material fact known to me. My advisory part is related to arithmetical accuracy or application of, let's say, for example, any new Ind AS or IFRS coming into the picture. I may obtain a detail, but at that particular point in time, if I disclose any information which I have acquired in my professional capacity without the permission of the client, there may be, another clause that might get attracted. So there has to be a balance between both of them. It's not like that I need to disclose each and everything. If there is a requirement, then only I need to disclose. Otherwise, clause 1 is there. I hope you are getting my point.
Yeah, sir.
Okay. Okay. That was clause 5 when I talk about failed to disclose. Okay. Now let's talk about clause 6. Let me insert some pages. Clause 6. Clause 6 talks about where I fail to report. Where CA in practice fail to report. Again, when I talk about fail to report, the underlying thing is a professional capacity. I am engaged in a professional capacity. Sorry. Okay, I am engaged in a professional capacity. So if I fail to disclose, fail to report, what a material misstatement known to him. Okay, a material misstatement known to him, which appear in financial statement. Where he is concerned in a professional capacity, in that case, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So, clause 5 was fail to disclose a material fact. Clause 6 talks about fails to report a material misstatement. Again, the concept of material misstatement will be based on materiality only. So I need to use SA 320 materiality to understand whether I have failed to report a material misstatement or not. Okay, pretty straightforward. There is nothing, ifs and buts in this particular clause. Okay. Now, let's come to clause number 7. I'll take it up together, all these clauses. Clause 7 says that if a CA in practice does not exercise due diligence or is grossly negligent in the conduct of his professional duties. at that particular point in time, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, understand one thing. If I fail to disclose or if I fail to report, at the same time, I can be held that, okay, I was grossly negligent. It is not the scenario that, okay, clause 6 is attracted, then clause 7 will not be there. So clause 6, clause 7, or, clause 5, 6, 7, all three together can be there. For example, I'll give you one example. Mr. A, let's say he's the stat auditor. Okay, of ABC Private Limited. ABC Private Limited did not report some of its employee these employees liabilities. If I talk about, let's say these are material enough. Okay, first of all, not disclosing these material to disclose this material information, material fact known to him, clause 5 will get attracted. He was supposed to disclose that material fact and he fails to disclose, clause 5 is there. Then there is a material misstatement that liabilities are not appropriately recorded. There is an unrecorded liabilities. And he failed to report that misstatement. Clause 6 will get attracted. After having that, these are very difficult because, see, let's say if I fail to disclose why there is a grossly negligent.
I'm saying about 5 and 6. 7, so it will attract in many places because
Financial statement. So I have seen very less and very rare examples where I can say, okay, it is non-disclosure, but it is not a misstatement.
Okay.
We will discuss this particular also part when we will discuss, modified opinions. So qualified opinion, adverse opinion, at that particular time, we will discuss what makes it a modified or qualified opinion or what makes it an adverse opinion. At that particular point in time also, we will discuss about that adverse opinion is not only related to the material misstatements, or modified opinions are not only related to the material misstatement, but they are also based on if there is a fact which is not disclosed in the financial statement, means related to the disclosures part.
So basically, if we apply 5, so we have to apply 6. There is less chances that we don't apply any single.
Yeah. Generally, you can say that there are scenarios generally where you have a very, less cases where I could say, okay, non-disclosure is not a material misstatement. Okay. Any further doubts?
So is there any example?
Example
of any one single one, that rarity case.
Right now, I might not be having, but I will try to get that example in the next lecture. As I said, it is very difficult to segregate those scenarios.
So we would write both the answer, right? We would write both the clauses. Yeah. So quoting both the clauses will not deduct our marks, right?
No, see, when it comes to the marks, you have to provide the answer which is relevant from the point of view of question. If you provide additional thing, there is no deduction of marks on additional thing. Let's say, for example, hypothetical example, only clause 5 was there. Okay. In the answer, you provided 5 plus you provided 6. It is not like that you provided 6, your marks will get deducted. No.
Okay. Additionally, if we have confusion, we can quote both.
Yes.
Sir, but we have to mention additionally we attracted two more clauses, clause 6 and clause 7 in examination.
See, again, that depends upon the question. Misstatement, and hence this clause will get attracted. So you have to write your answer in such a way based on the information given in the question. Like for example, in question itself, it is given that okay, it is he was not gross negligent, but only there was a non-disclosure of a material fact. So you have to write your answer in accordance with the questions and the details given in the question. Okay. I hope it is clear with the 5, 6, and 7. Now coming to clause number 8. Clause 8, again, somewhat related to clause 5, 6, and 7. How? I'll show you. Clause 8, which talks about if a CA in practice fails to obtain, now what he fails to obtain, sufficient information which is necessary for expression of opinion. Obtain sufficient information or its exception are sufficiently material to negate the expression of an opinion. So there are two parts to this. Number one, if I fail to obtain sufficient information, or second one is if my exceptions are of such nature that it is negating my opinion. For example, let's say I issued an opinion that subject to verification of asset side of balance sheet, everything is true and fair. So I am taking such an exceptions, or if I say subject to the transactions carried out during the year, or subject to the items listed in the profit and loss account, everything is appearing true and fair. So I am taking such an exception that is, it is negating my opinion, or I fail to obtain sufficient information which is necessary for my opinion. Means without vouching, without verifying the details, I issue an opinion. I do not collect the necessary audit evidence that is required as per SA 500. So SA 500 evidence is missing, and I issue an opinion. If that is the case, in that scenario, it could be called that, okay, I failed to obtain sufficient information, and hence I will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Any doubt?
Sir, the example which you quoted here, in this case, a clause 9 misconduct will also be applicable, na, sir, where he is departing from generally applicable audit procedure to be followed while obtaining audit evidence.
Yes, that's why I say 5 to 9, they can be interlinked, they are related to each other. So there can be a scenario where multiple clauses can get attracted. Let's say, for example, if there's a multiple departure from any generally accepted audit procedures, which is also where I'm failing to obtain sufficient information. Both are coming together. Yes, 8 and 9 get attracted.
Even clause 7 would also applicable here, being grossly negligent.
Yes.
Yes.
And clause 2 will be also be applicable because he is certifying.
He is certifying where he has not. Yeah. So that's why I say these clauses are linked together. A particular scenario can be there where multiple clauses can be applicable, specifically from 5 to 9. Okay, so that is clause 8, and in continuation, I will also write the clause 9 because it is on the similar line. Clause 9, which is if he fails to invite attention to any material departure from the generally accepted audit procedures. I should not write as a gap. It will be accounting principles. Generally accepted audit procedure, accepted procedures of audit applicable in instances. Best example, if I can give a combination of both, is, let's say, for example, for the debtor's balance, okay, for the customer's balance, Mr. A was required to issue external confirmations for verification of trade receivables. Mr. A did not perform the same, and issued a opinion. So here in this particular example, Mr. A first failed to invite attention to any material departure. That means there was a material departure from the generally accepted audit procedures, which is I need to send external confirmations. Okay. Now, when I did not follow that particular procedure, means I did not collect the evidence which was required, necessary for expressing an opinion, plus there was a departure from the generally accepted audit procedures. I did not brought attention to that also. 8 and 9 both will get attracted. And if I say he was gross negligent, 7 will also get attracted.
So whether 2 will or not, because certifying without examination of letters.
Now, in that case, if you see clause 2, basically, what it says that clause 2 says that if he certifies or submits in name a report of examination of financial statement, unless examination of such statement made by him. Now, we are talking about examination in detail, okay, in whole, not a particular part of the data, but examination of a whole financial statement. If he has missed out the examination of a whole of a financial statement or a majority of the portion of the financial statement, then yes, 2 can be attracted. But if I talk about only data's portion, which could be material but not the majority portion, in that case, it is very difficult to say that, clause 2 will get attracted. It is very subjective rather.
Suppose you send the confirmation letters to the data, but nobody replied to that by the deadline given. Then,
Rakesh, your voice is not clear.
am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Sir, what I'm asking is key auditor has followed the procedure. He has sent the confirmation letters to the party. I mean, debtors. But nobody has replied to his within the given deadline. Then, I mean, see, for him, he has no other way but to report on the financial statement.
No.
So here, I mean, what should be the situation?
It is not like that. If you are not getting the replies from the confirmation, there is an alternate procedures that you are required to perform as auditor. So based on the evidence of alternate procedures, plus based on the evidence of the controls around that particular area, okay, how the internal financial controls are working. So some level of evidence I'll be getting from the controls. Okay, internal financial controls. Some level of evidence I'm getting from the alternate procedures that I will be performing. If after getting these evidences, if I'm satisfied, okay, in my professional judgment, that I have received the sufficient evidence to opine on the data, perfectly fine, I can opine. But if I'm not able to receive that evidence that I require, in that case, I need to modify my opinion.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Now, the another part that I want to discuss here is generally accepted procedures of audit. Whether it will cover only other SREs, SEs, or what cover, whether it will cover SQC. So when I talk about generally accepted procedures, anyone, or whether it will cover guidance note also, what it will cover.
I think essays and SQC and guidance note of essays and SQC, SRE and SAE would not.
Okay. Okay, great. Any other answers?
All SK.
Anyone else has a different answer or any other answer?
Only essays and guidance notes are covered for audit procedures, and other services like assurance and service level agreements.
E. Okay. SQC, all these are part of the engagement and quality control standard. SRS, all are the part of this my engagement and quality control standards. So engagement and quality control standards are part of your generally accepted procedures of audit. Number 2, apart from generally accepted procedures of audit, apart from engagement and quality control standards, your general clarifications issued by council, then you have guidance notes, you have technical guides, you have practice manuals, institute from time to time.
So, is it there referred somewhere or generally like this all will cover? Is there any specifically mentioned that this all are that, or we are just assuming for a moment that they are generally?
No. It is not like that. So if you want to refer these details, you may refer to the code of ethics. So code of ethics has already specified all these details in detail. All this particular list has listed on all these things in detail. So there are 2 volumes of code of ethics. Code of ethics has specified each and every term in detail. Let's say, for example, when I talk about generally accepted audit procedures, over there it has already specified that general clarifications, engagement quality control standard, guidance note, technical guides, practice manual, other materials are part of that. You may refer page number 127 of the Code of Ethics, Part 2, Volume 2. So this is not something that we are assuming or I am assuming. This is there. This is listed in the Code of Ethics, where all the details are prescribed. Now, the point is that in certain circumstances, some of the things might not be applicable. Let's say if it is an audit, then SRE, SAE, SRS might not be applicable. That's why this particular term, which says that applicable in the circumstances, is there. So whatever is applicable out of these, you have to comply with those particular audit procedures. Any further doubts to this one? Any doubts in understanding of clause 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 that we understood in detail till now? Any doubt? Yes, Mansha, Code of Ethics also requires that. Okay. If no further doubt, that was till clause 9. These are the, linked with one another. As we discussed right now, these are the linked with one another. Now, coming to the next part, which is clause 10, which is a bit different and it's not linked with that. Clause 10 talks about that if a CA in practice fails to keep money of his client, okay, which is other than fees and remuneration. Okay. Or money which is meant to be expended in a certain way. Okay. In a separate bank account. So if he fails to keep money of his client other than fees and remuneration or money meant to be expended in a separate bank account, or uses such money for the purpose which they are not intended for, or uses such money for purpose for which they are not intended for. Okay. If that is done, like if he's spending the money for other purposes, okay, in that case, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct.
Sir, it's a or and. It's a mutually exclusive. Suppose he keep the in a separate bank account, but uses the money for which they are not intended to.
No, if he uses the money for which, for any other purpose, it will be there. So it will be considered that he is not using the money for the purpose for which it was intended within the reasonable time frame.
Okay.
So failing conditions are two, na sir. Either he's keeping money other than fee in not keeping money in separate bank account, or not using within reasonable time.
Yes. So not using with a reasonable time or using for any other purpose. Let's say, for example, if I'm not using with a reasonable time, or if I use for any other purpose, then how can you use for that money that for within a reasonable time? Let's say, for example, I have 100 rupees from my client. It was supposed to be for tax payment. I'm not paying the tax out of that money, but I'm doing something else. How can I then pay a tax within the reasonable time? I'm about to come on that point also. That is there, that if I do not use and the money lies for that particular purpose. Let's say, for example, I was supposed to pay tax, but I do not pay the tax. I still have kept the money in separate bank account. So that part is there still. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Now, there is one more part, as I said, where he fails to use the money. Like, if I'm using for the purpose which is not intended for, but also if fails to use the money. So, fails to use the money for the purpose for which they are intended to be used. Let's say, for example, if 100 rupees was given to me, if I do not for payment, reasonable time means, let's say, for purpose for which I have received that money, okay, that will define what is a reasonable time. If I have received the money for payment of tax, the any time before the due date of the tax will be a reasonable time. Or let's say I have received the money with the specific instructions from a client that please pay this amount by next week. So next week is a reasonable time. So the reasonable time has to be interpreted in terms of the instructions that you have received from the client or the purpose for which the money was received.
So if I am using for not intended purpose, does it amount to embezzlement or defalcation?
It could be if you are not using, let's say, for example, money was there to pay the tax. I did not pay the tax. I use it for my own purpose. Now I don't have money to pay the tax. Yes, it's a fraud, embezzlement.
So that clause will also attracted, clause 4, part 2.
Sorry, which one?
Clause 4, part 2. Clause 4, part 2, second schedule.
Okay, clause for part 2, second schedule. Yeah. So if I receive a money in a professional capacity and if I embezzle, that one, yes. Now, with respect to this one, with respect to this particular clause, there is one more thing that we need to understand. Okay. Is that if I receive an advance, okay, if I receive an advance against the services, am I required to keep in a separate bank account?
But other than fee return, but not here, but as per guideline, you are required. No, as per guideline, also you are not required to keep. But it's written that other than fee, so we are not required to keep in separate banking account.
Any other answers? Any other answers?
It
Let's
may
say I
be
have received
required to.
yes.
Sorry, sir. It may be required to deposit in separate account because suppose I failed as an auditor, I failed to fulfill my services. Then it is not my money.
I'm sorry, your
Though
voice
it is
was...
against the fees. Hello.
Yeah,
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, now you're audible.
Sir, what I'm telling is ki though it is advance for his fees or any other, assignment he has done, but still it is an advance. So there are chances that he may fail to fulfill his commitments. So it should have been kept in a separate account.
But when the default will occur, then it should be kept in a separate bank account. That at that time that will be liability.
Okay, let me tell you. Now, when I talk about advance received by a CA in practice for his services, that advance falls under the definition of fees and remuneration. So advance for services is part of fees and remuneration. And hence clause 10 will not be, get attracted for advance for services. So they does not fall under the purview of clause 10. Advance for services is part of fees and remuneration and does not fall under clause 10 of part 1 of second schedule. No. Okay. Under clause 10, okay, does not fall under clause 10. Pretty much simple. Now,
there is one more interlinking of that where there is in-depthness in general. There is one council guideline for in-depthness, and there is also that difference that it will not amount to in-depthness.
Yeah.
If you are using.
Yes. So I'll come that on that point also. I will also come on that point when I will discuss the council general guidelines. But yeah, as of now, advance for services is part of fees and remuneration and will not fall under the clause 10. Okay. Now, another part that I want to discuss about the reasonable time frame. This reasonable time. Let's say, for example, I have received some amount for some expenditure. Let's say I have received the money from client. Okay, this is an amount. Pay tax today itself. In that case, I am receiving for a very short time frame. Is it necessary for me to first transfer that amount in a separate bank account and then from there I need to pay the tax?
No, it is not necessary, because here the time factor we have to consider also. If the time gap between the payment and the actual payment of that money we made, if there is too long, then we have to keep it in a separate bank account.
Absolutely correct. Yes. So if it is reasonably short time, okay. Now here, if it is reasonably short time, then no need to put in a separate bank account. But if you do not use that money within that reasonably short time, again, it will be said that you fail to use the money and clause 10 will get attracted. Any doubt till now? Any doubt with respect to the clause 10? Fails to keep and fails to use the money. Okay. So if it is very short, reasonably short time, no need to put in a separate bank account, but you need to use that money in that reasonably short time. Otherwise, it will be counted as a you have failed to use the money and clause 10 will get attracted. With this, we have completed our part 1 of second schedule. We have completed all the 10 clauses. Any doubt in any of the 10 clauses? Any doubt? Okay. If no doubt, let's move forward to the part 2, okay, of second schedule. Now, when I talk about part 2 of second schedule, okay, first of all, understand to whom it is applicable. Can anyone tell me to whom it is applicable?
Generally, all.
Yes.
Mem-
So it is
members in
applicable.
service.
That
No,
was
it is applicable. Yes. Okay. It is applicable to members of the institute generally. It is not applicable to only service, not C in practice, but members of the institute generally. Applicable to members of institute generally. We have a specific part in first schedule which is applicable to member of institute in service. That is in part first schedule, not in second schedule. In second schedule, part 2 is applicable to members of institute generally. Don't get confused on that part. Okay. Now the first clause of part 2 is if a member of the institute, whether in practice, in service, in general, okay, whether in practice or not, he will be held deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he contravenes any of the provision of the act, contravenes any provision of the act, regulations, guidelines. Okay. So if he contravenes any provision of the act, regulations, or guidelines, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, there are various guidelines that we have discussed till now. Okay, we have discussed some of the networking guidelines, advertisement guidelines. There are further guidelines that we will be discussing in, in some time or in coming lecture. So if a member of the institute contravenes those guidelines, those provisions of the act, the provisions of the act we have already discussed, in that case, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct.
Then which act? It's the Chartered Accountant Act.
Yes, the Chartered Accountant Act. So Chartered Accountants Act, regulations or guidelines issued by council. Okay. There is nothing much in this particular part, in this particular clause. Let's go to clause 2. Clause 2. Now, although it is applicable to member of the institute generally, but what it says that? It says that being employee of a company, or firm, okay, or person, if being an employee of any company, firm, or person, I disclose the confidential information acquired in the course of employment, okay, otherwise then required by law or except where permitted by employer, otherwise required by law or permitted by employer. In that case, I will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, you might ask, this is applicable only to employee in service, then how it is applicable to member in general? You will say this is applicable to member in service, not member in general. Understand one thing, when I say being employee of any company, firm or person, let's say a CA in practice who is in employment for a CA firm, I can still be, in practice and employment of a firm, CA firm, who is in, and I will be called deemed to be in practice. So over there also, I will be covered by this particular clause. Are you getting my point? It's not like that I will only be covered. Okay, I should be only in employment. No, I can be in practice. I can be in employment. It can be both together. Let's say if I'm in practice and in employment with a CA firm, full time in practice, in that case, this clause will also attract to me. But the point here is, if I disclose any information acquired in the course of my employment, that is very important. If I disclose any information that I have acquired in the course of my employment, except where required by law or by permitted by employer, I will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Straightforward, if I say it's a breach of confidentiality. If I breach the confidentiality, I will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Can anyone tell me which is the same clause applicable to CA in practice or member in practice?
Part 1, clause 1.
Yes, absolutely correct. Part 1, clause 1, we already discussed, that is applicable to chartered accountant in practice. If he discloses the information acquired, okay, without the permission of the client or consent of the client or without required by law, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. A replication of that particular clause, but applicable to only when I'm being employee of a company, firm, or a person. Clear? Any doubt till now?
But there is no word confidentiality in part 1, clause 1.
Sorry?
The word confidentiality is not there.
Word confidentiality is not there, but if you disclose any information, now see, like which one you are not supposed to disclose. So it means that only that you are disclosing information without the permission of the client, which you are not supposed to disclose. That is a confidentiality.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, if I'm employed in an organization which is indulged in any illegal or say fraudulent activities, where I can also report to the vigil mechanism present within the organization, but even also the things are being ignored. So then in that case, will I be under any responsibility to report to government authority or to say ICAI?
See, now that is a very, not a simple answer to that particular question. Let's say, for example, you are in a company, okay, you identify something going wrong. Now, whether you fall under the definition of senior professional accountant as per the NOCLAR. So we have discussed NOCLAR also. Remember, non-compliance laws and regulations.
360.
Now, being a member of the institute, NOCLAR is applicable to me. So I need to understand that I'm a senior professional accountant. Yes. Then based on that, based on the guidelines given and the guidance given in the code of ethics, I need to take the decision whether I'm required to disclose that information to the regulatory body or not. So there could be,
okay, sir, if without informing them, if I resign from the organization, then will it be my misconduct will get continued?
So if you are not reporting the non-compliance, yes, there could be a, you are not complying to the code of ethics. So that again, depends upon a lot of things. What kind of non-compliance you are seeing, what is the impact of the non-compliance, on which position or capacity you are, whether you are a senior professional accountant or not. So a lot of things are involved. And I would say there is not a straightforward answer to this, because these requires a lot of legal consultation. It's not like, black and white answer. You can just do it or not.
Okay.
There is written obtain legal opinion or something is written at the last if we are not able to conclude in non-compliance.
Recording in progress.
What
Auditors.
was
She may be speaking about auditors expert.
No, I am speaking that in the terms of non-compliance, law, consideration of laws and regulation that A say, it is
Means
specifically mentioned obtain legal opinion on
legal
that.
advice.
If you are not complete.
Yes. So basically, as I told you, like, if you are in the capacity of the auditor, SA will also be applicable, but you are employed in the capacity of an employee of that particular company, code of ethics is applicable and the no clar is applicable. As of now, it is restricted to certain companies, but again, you need to consider what are your duties, and you need always, just have double check before taking any of the decision, whether you were supposed to disclose to a third party or not. Okay. Any doubt till now? No? Okay. Clause 3. Clause 3 talks about if a member of the institute, whether in practice or not, includes any information or any statement or written or form which is submitted to the institute, council, committees, director discipline, board of director, disciplinary committee, quality review board, appellant authority, which is knowing them to be false. So means that if member provides clause 3. So providing false information, just a minute. Sorry, there is some technical glitch. So providing false information to institute, council, committee, then director discipline, board of discipline, you have a disciplinary committee, then you have a quality review board or appellate authority. In that case, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct, providing false information, knowing them to be false, or knowingly. Knowingly, if you provide any false information to any of the department of the institute, whether it's committee, council, board of discipline, director discipline, disciplinary committee, QRB, appellate authority, in that case, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clear? Any doubt? Straightforward, nothing, no complexity or nothing, complex in this. And the clause 4 for this part is if a member of the institute, whether in practice or not, embezzles money received in professional capacity, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Straightforward. Embezzles money received in his professional capacity. He will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Straightforward. And when I talk about professional capacity, not only stat auditor, but any professional capacity I'm talking about. Because it's not only, member in practice. I'm talking about member of institute generally. So in any professional capacity, if I receive any money and if I embezzle that money, I will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Any doubt?
So if I am providing false information to income tax authority or GST authority, which is not an appellate authority.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, that clause will not be applicable. That clause will be in fault with.
See, if you provide false information to income tax, then income tax penalties might be applicable to you. So you need to refer to then, the provisions of the Income Tax Act or a specific act where you are providing false information.
No, but misconduct will
And
also
in
be
that
there
case,
now.
Huh?
Misconduct will also be there, but under which clause we will fall?
So
in that
you
case.
will see, in that case, what will happen is, let's say for example, you provided a false information to income tax authorities. Okay. There are specific sections in income tax authorities under which you will be penalized. Now, in this particular case, what happens is, if you are held guilty by any civil or criminal code for an offense which might be below the term of 6 months or exceeding the terms of 6 months, in that case, either clause 1 of part 4 or here in part 3 clause 1 will be applicable to you.
So, but the offense like disclosing false data abetting is of penalty only, not of imprisonment.
Yes. So again, in that case, there is a clause 2 also, bringing disrepute to the profession or institute as a result of his action.
Contravention of, there is no guideline about it.
Sorry?
There might be some guideline, and we can say that guideline has contraventions or regulation about.
So in that case, see, there are things like code of ethics, which is there in the picture, that you need to provide the information, correct information. So in that case, you may say that you have contravened the code of ethics. There is a violation of code of ethics.
So then
But
we
if you are looking for one particular clause that will fit directly, so there is no such clause which will fit directly. That is depending upon case to case basis.
Oh, okay, sir.
Any other doubt? Any other doubt till now? Which, if no other doubt, then this brings to our part 3 of second schedule, the last part and the last clause that is there. Okay. Now, this is related to other misconduct. This is not a professional misconduct. This is other misconduct. Means if a member in practice, or sorry, if a member of institute, whether in practice or not, okay, if he falls under this particular clause, in that case, I will say he is deemed to be guilty of other misconduct, not professional misconduct. And if in an exam, if you write professional misconduct, marks can be deducted. So you have to be specific whether it's a other misconduct or professional misconduct. Okay. And the clause is that a member of institute, whether in practice or not, okay, whether in practice or not, if he is held guilty by any civil or criminal court. Okay, so held guilty of any or by any civil or criminal court. Okay, for an offense or for any offense rather, for any offense which is punishable with imprisonment. Which is punishable with imprisonment for more than 6 months. Okay, in that case, he will be held guilty of other misconduct under this clause. So, held guilty by any civil or criminal court for any offense punishable with imprisonment for more than 6 months. So, part 3 of second schedule, other misconduct.
Okay, thank you.
Any doubts? See, it doesn't matter whether the doubt is silly or small. Don't worry on that part. If you have any doubts, please ask. Reason because the more doubts you will ask, the more you will understand about the topic. And I want you guys to ask as many doubts as you can. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? You can unmute yourself. You can post on BOS portal. Perfectly fine.
Sir,
yes.
Will you explain again for the question you have asked that sharing of working papers with the HO, like or by auditor of HO with the subsidiary?
Of work papers. Okay. Now, at point in time, I'm required to put the information. Sharing of working papers is different than the sharing of information.
So,
okay. So, see, again, when I talk about internal auditor is also part of the auditor. Okay. So again, when I talk about sharing of information, that is also applicable to internal auditor. They can share the information. Whether they are required to share work papers, answer is no.
So, but if we are having direct assistance of him, in that case, then their working paper is our working paper. If
So
we
that
are,
is my opinion. If it is a direct assistance, okay. If it is he's working for me, satisfying the conditions which are there in the essay, in that case, there will be no work paper of the internal auditor. Rather, every work paper will be of the external auditor.
Okay, sir. So in that example, clause 1 will not be applicable, right? Like sharing of information.
Yes, it will be applicable provided if there is anything additional in those working papers. So if I'm providing additional information, which is the part of the working paper, which was not asked as an information, clause 1 will get attracted.
Okay, understood, sir.
So let's say, for example, that group auditor asked us that, okay, provide me the information about third-party sales. I shared my working paper of sales, which contains all the adjustment, everything, my top 10 parties, all of the information. Now, whether that information was asked by the group auditor, answer is no. He only asked about the third-party sales, intercompany sales. I provided all the information that was there with me in the work paper. I disclosed information more than required, which was not required by law. Without the permission of the client, clause 1 can get attracted.
Yes. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any further doubts? Any doubts? Any?
So there was one question I don't roughly remember, that if I am providing services of valuation machinery, if I am engaging in a profession of valuating machineries, so whether it's a whether it will attract the clause 11 part 1 first schedule engagement.
If I am evaluating the machinery.
Yeah, I am in the valuation register valuer for valuating machineries.
Okay. So, and what was the other information that was given in the particular question?
So other informations was different information, like he's chartered accountant in practice. He wanted to take classes for registered valuer of machinery, and he is thinking to along with that he want to give services of that also, of valuation services of valuating machinery.
I actually, before answering the question, I would like to still read the question because every word is very important. Is it possible for you to share me that question or any reference from where you read or where it was?
It was in November 23, I guess. Yeah, November 23 paper.
Okay. Let me go through that question that you are referring here.
I'm searching for it. I will say to you.
Sorry?
Yeah, I'm looking for it. I will send you.
Sure, definitely. That will be great.
But the answer I have read, they are saying that only particular machinery, the valuation of register valuation of land and building is allowed in the whole list of that management consultancy services. There is a huge list of management consultancy services what or CA can give, and there was a small point that the valuation of land and building is allowed, but machinery is not allowed.
See, before I comment on that particular part, I just need to refer to the question. What was the information?
Okay, I just find the question and send you.
Sure. Any further doubts? Any doubts? No?
Sir, under the list of permitted services given that we have already studied, there was one service like valuation service. Sir, if a case is such that a practicing chartered accountant is being appointed to value the goodwill of a running concern, for which he is charging his fees on percentage of the value of goodwill. So, will it be a misconduct to provide a valuation service for goodwill?
Valuation of service of goodwill. Okay. So, see, in this case, what will happen is there are specified list only. So, in that specified list, valuation of goodwill is not part of that.
Okay.
So, either it should be, specifically part of that, then only you can say it will be, falling under that particular head, otherwise not.
Okay.
Any other doubts? No? Okay. If no further doubts, I'll propose to keep the lecture till here. In the next lectures, I will be again discussing Council General guidelines and other guidelines which are applicable, which are yet to be discussed and left for discussion. Okay, there are certain portions of that, and we'll be discussing more on the questions on the clauses that we concluded till today. So all the clauses will be included in that. So Please be prepared with the clauses, with the guidelines, and we will be solving a lot of questions so that you can have a good clarity about the topic. Okay, guys. Thank you for participating in today's lecture. Okay, please provide your feedback. It is very important for us to understand your feedback. Okay, so do provide your feedback. It is necessary for us. Okay, guys. Thank you for participating in today's lecture. I'll see you in the next lecture.
Sir,
Yes.
chat has been disabled for this Zoom session, but why is it this so?
Chat has been disabled because of some changes. I need to check the exact reason for the changes. But if you have any doubt, you can unmute yourself and ask the doubt. You can use the BOS portal also.
सर BOS पोर्टल पे जब मैं लॉगिन कर रही हूँ तो वो बस बफर कर रहा है सर, वहां पे भी मुझे लाइव लेक्चर चलते हुए नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है बॉस ऐप में भी.
Can you just share the screenshot with I think there is a mail ID given for the BOS portal issues. If you just can share the screenshot of that particular issue that you are facing, let's say the buffering screenshot on that particular mail ID, they will immediately look into that and provide you a solution.
Okay, sir.
Okay, guys. Thank you for your time. I'll see you in the next lecture. Yes. Thank you.